Welcome learners. We meet now for our lesson in Form 3 Mathematics. And we are going to explore further on the methods of solving quadratic equations. So far we've looked at how to solve quadratic equations by factorization method. We also looked at how we can solve quadratic equations using what is called completing squares method. And now we meet to explore further another method of solving quadratic equations by formula. By the formula x equals to minus b plus or minus root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So we shall explore what this is in this lesson. Welcome learners. So subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so that every time we upload new material, you are informed. So we show you step-by-step examples how to use the formula to solve quadratic equations. If what you want is to join us in our main platform, Black Slides Online, simply send us a text message to the number shared here, and we'll be excited to come back to you with directions on how you can join. Welcome learners. So without wasting your precious time, let's get down to the business of this time. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to state the quadratic formula. This is the quadratic formula. It states that the value of x, or values of x, because for quadratic equations, you can have two solutions to a quadratic equation, or you can have one solution, as you're going to see. So whichever the case, this is the general formula, the quadratic formula for solving any quadratic equation. Whether the quadratic expression can be factorized or not, this formula will work anywhere. It's a very powerful tool for solving all quadratic equations. So this equation is called a quadratic formula. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to state this equation: x equals to minus b plus or minus root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. We shall discover what these letters a, b, c stand for. You should be able to identify the values of a, b, and c in a quadratic equation, which is written in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. Remember that all quadratic equations are represented generally by this equation. So you are going to identify the values of a, b, and c from a given equation. You should be able to substitute the correct values into the quadratic formula. Should be able to calculate what is called the discriminant, which is this expression under the root sign. It's called a discriminant. So calculate the discriminant and interpret its meaning. should be able to solve quadratic equations accurately using the quadratic formula, this formula here. So these are the objectives for this lesson which we must achieve. So watch the video up to the end, taking down notes where necessary. In case you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out by texting the number that we gave you earlier on, or you can simply leave a comment in the comment section below this video. There's a section there where you can leave your comment. But when everything is well and good, there's no need for you to text or to leave a comment. It will be assumed that you have understood. Welcome, learners. So without much delay, let's look at objective number 1, which is to state the quadratic formula. Remember, we said that you should be able to state the quadratic formula. You should be able to write it down. So, recall from our previous lessons, we defined a quadratic equation as an equation in which the highest power of the variable is 2. And it is written in the standard form ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, where a, b, and c are constants. In other words, they are numbers. And a should never, ever be equal to 0. Because if a equals 0, then the equation is no longer quadratic. You end up having a linear equation. So when a quadratic equation cannot easily be solved by factorization or completing the squares, we use the quadratic formula, which is this formula here: x is equal to minus b plus or minus root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So this formula gives the values of x that satisfy any quadratic equation which is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. This you must memorize. You must have it on your brain, on your mind all the time. In the exam, they will not give it to you. You simply have to pick it up and use it to solve the quadratic equation in question. Welcome, learners. So what are the meanings of the symbols which we have in the equation? We are looking at this equation here: a, b, c, x, a, b, c, and x. What do they stand for? So in the general equation, x stands for the unknown, which has to be solved for, while a is a coefficient of x and b is the coefficient of x. So I beg your pardon, a is a coefficient of x squared and b is a coefficient of x, while c is a constant term. By constant we mean number, just a number. It can be 2, 3, 4, 5. It can be minus 4, minus 3, minus 8, any number, negative or positive. It can also be a fraction or a whole number, c. So the plus and minus means there are two possible answers to the values of x, for which one is using plus and the other is using minus. That's the meaning of plus or minus. And the root, this is the root, which means square root. This symbol in this expression, in the formula, this symbol here, the one which looks like a long division symbol, is square root. For example, in the equation 2x squared plus 5x minus 3 equals to 0, a is equal to 2. The coefficient of x squared is 2, and b is equal to 5. But bear on your mind that this is positive 5. So this number here, the value of b is positive 5. And c is minus 3. So that's what the symbols in the formula mean. X stands for the known variable which has to be solved for. A is the coefficient of x squared, and b is the coefficient of x, while c is just a constant term, which is just a number. The plus or minus means there are two possible answers, one using plus, the other one using minus. And this symbol means square root. So from this equation, the values of a, b, and c can be determined. So a is equal to 2, b is 5, and c is minus 3. Welcome, learners. So these values will later be substituted into quadratic formula to find the solutions. So the quadratic formula works for all quadratic equations. It's universal formula. It works everywhere in any quadratic equation. So for you to solve the equation, first and foremost, always write the equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0 before using the quadratic formula. So learn the formula exactly as written. I would like you to write the quadratic formula from memory and identify the values of a, b, and c in each equation. So write the quadratic formula. Try to write it on paper or in your notebook. Write the formula x is equal to minus b plus or minus root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Can you write that equation now on your paper, in your book? From memory, you have to remember the formula. And you go on to write the values of a, b, and c in each of these equations. So we have x squared plus 6x plus 5 equals to 0. 3x squared minus 7x plus 2 equals to 0. Five x squared plus x minus 4 equals to 0. So I want you for each of these equations to write down the values of a, b, and c. That's all I want you to do. Don't go ahead to solve the equations. Just write down the values of a, b, and c. Welcome, learners. All right. So in summary, from the first objective, we have learned that the quadratic formula is x equals to b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. This you must keep to your memory. So this equation is the general method used to solve any quadratic equation, written in the standard form ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. So memorize this equation because you shall need it to solve quadratic equations. not only today, but always, all the time in your exams in the future. Right. Welcome to the second objective, which is to identify the values of a, b, and c in a quadratic equation. So before we start using the quadratic formula, you must identify the values of a, b, and c correctly. These values are taken from the quadratic equation and written in the standard form ax squared plus bx plus c. Once again, a is the coefficient of x squared, b is the coefficient of x, and c is the constant term. By constant term, we mean it's just the number. It's not attached to any letter. That's a constant term. Right? So, if the equation is not in standard form, we have to rearrange it first. For example, let's appreciate this one. We have 2x squared plus 5x minus 3 equals to 0. So this is straightforward. A is 3. You can see here. A is equal to 2. So there's a 2 there. B is 5, while C is minus 3. Please pay attention to the sign before the values. This is minus 3. So you take the whole of it, not just 3. This is positive 5. So you just write it as 5. And that's positive 2. Another example is x squared minus 8x, x squared minus 8x plus 12 equals to 0. So the coefficient of x squared here is just a 1. So a is 1, and b is minus 8, while c is 12. Welcome, learners. For this example, a is equal to 4 and b is minus 1. Take note that there's a 1 there, and it is minus 1, not just 1, but minus 1. Then c is positive 7. This is an interesting one. We have 5 minus 3x plus 2x squared is equal to 0. This is not in standard form. Remember that in standard form, it has to be in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. So here we start with c. The c is there, and the b is in the middle, which is okay. While the a is in front. This is not quite in order, so this has to come first. So first write it in standard form. So start with this one here. So it will be 2x squared. You take the whole of it, bring it here. 2x squared minus 3x, then plus 5. This is plus 5. This is the one in front of the 5 there. So therefore a is equal to 2, and b is equal to minus 3, and c is equal to 5. Take note that for this particular example, we had to rewrite it in standard form, in form of 2x squared minus 3x plus 5. So as it is given here, it's not already in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. We have to rewrite this in standard form. That's what we are saying here. Candidates make some mistakes in the exams. So the common mistakes that candidates make is forgetting that if there's no number before x, then a is 1. If there's no number here, then that means there's a 1 there. So candidates forget that fact. Another mistake candidates make is ignoring the sign of the numbers. For example, in x squared minus 6x plus 4, take note that b, the value of b is the whole minus 6, not just the 6, but minus 6. So some candidates leave out the minus. They just copy the 6 down there. So b is minus 6, not just 6. So that's another mistake. Another mistake is failing to rearrange the equation into standard form before identifying a, b, and c. So these mistakes need to be avoided. They need to be avoided. Right, so for you, I'd like you to identify the values of a, b, and c in each of these equations. So the first one is x squared plus 4x plus 3 equals to 0. 2x squared minus 5x plus 2 equals to 0. 6x squared plus x minus 9 equals to 0. 8 minus 2x plus x squared equals to 0. And the 7x squared minus 4 equals to 0. So write each equation in standard form where necessary and state the values of a, b, and c. You find that some of the equations among these are not in standard form. They are not in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. So for those equations, write the equations in standard form and state the equations, state the values of a, b, and c. Welcome, learners. So in summary, from the second objective, we have seen that for any quadratic equation written as ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, a is the coefficient of x squared, and b is the coefficient of x, while c is the constant term. So correct identification of these values is the first step in solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. So don't go ahead to use quadratic formula before you have identified a, b, and c from the given equation. Welcome to objective number 3, which is to substitute the correct values into the quadratic formula. So after identifying the values of a, b, and c, that's not the end of it. So the next step is to substitute or replace them into the quadratic formula, which is this powerful tool here. So having identified the values of a, b, and c, you substitute those values into this expression, into this equation. So we are saying x will be equal to minus b plus or minus root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So you replace a with the value of a. Don't mix these up. Replace b with the value of b. Replace c with the value of c. And always include brackets around negative numbers to avoid sign errors. Making sure that you are mindful of the signs each one of them have from the given equation. For example, solve the equation. Mind you, now at this point we are simply substituting into the equation. We are not solving yet. Okay? Don't make a mistake. We are simply substituting. We are looking at correct substitution of values. We are not solving the equations yet. We are just substituting. Understand me there. So the first step is to identify the values of A, B, and C. So A is 2, as you can see here. B is 5, while C is minus 3. And this is equal to 0. So the next step now is substitute the values. Substitute into the formula. Remember, our formula is minus b plus or minus root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So you put given values where they belong. So b is 5, so x is equal to minus 5, so this is b plus or minus root of, we have b squared, you square b here, then minus 4 times the value of a, which is 2, and then times c. So make sure the c is put in brackets to avoid confusion with signs. So down here there's an a, you put 2 multiplied by a. So do not simplify yet. The aim here is just to substitute correctly. So don't go ahead to simplify this one for now. We are just practicing with substituting correctly. Welcome, learners. Let's look at another example. Solve x squared minus 6x plus 8 equals 0. So first of all, identify the values of a, b, and c. So a is 1. B is minus 6. Take note, we are taking the whole minus 6. And C is 8. Then substituting into our equation, we shall have minus 6. This is B, this one. We bring it down here. Plus or minus root of 6 minus 6 squared minus 4 times 8. 1 is the value of A and 8 is the value of C. Down here we shall have 2 times 1, which is 2 times A. Notice that minus multiplied by minus 6 becomes positive 6. And the minus 6 squared, this one in brackets here, is going to give us 36. Alright, once again, don't simplify this one for now. We are just learning how to substitute the values correctly. Example number 3. Solve 3x squared plus x minus 2. So identify the values first of all. A is 3, B is 1. There's a 1 here, although you don't write it. There's a 1 there, and the C is minus 2. So substituting will give us minus 1. Mind you, 1 is the value of B. plus or minus then the root of 1 square minus 4 times 3, and then multiplied by minus 2. Put this in brackets to avoid confusion with signs. Divide by 2 times 3. The 3 is the value of a up there. So that's how substituting goes. Welcome, learners. Common mistakes that candidates make in an exam include forgetting the negative sign before B. They leave it out. Once you do that, it will change the solution completely. So that's mistake number 1. So don't forget the negative sign before the B. Another mistake is omitting brackets when B or C is negative. Always enclose the values of B and or C in brackets when they have negative signs. Substituting the wrong values for A, B, and C, that's another one. Another mistake is forgetting that the denominator is 2A, not just 2. So 2A, that means you have to multiply 2 by the given value of A. Alright, so I would like you to practice with substitution only. Substitute the values of A, B, and C into the quadratic formula without simplifying. Just substitute. That's what I want you to do, like we did in the examples. Because for now you are just practicing how to substitute the values of A, B, and C for each of the equations into the quadratic formula. That's all. So let me see your work. Share your work with me. Send to my number. Just take a picture of your solutions. Send to me for me to look at. Welcome, learners. So in summary, what we have said is that to substitute into the quadratic equation or formula, first of all, write the equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. Then identify the values of a, b, and c. Then replace or substitute them carefully in this expression. So using brackets where necessary, correct substitution makes the remaining calculations straightforward. Welcome, learners. Welcome to the fourth objective, which is to calculate the discriminant, which is b squared minus 4ac, and interpret its meaning. So after substituting values of a, b, and c into the quadratic formula, the next step now is to calculate the discriminant. The discriminant is just the expression under the square root sign. It's this one, b squared minus 4ac. The value that you get from this substitution would tell you the nature and number of the solutions of the quadratic equation before solving it. So first of all, solve this one separately. Okay. So the value you get will tell you the nature and number of the solutions of the quadratic equations before solving it. So that's what we'd like to explore now. So there are three possible cases. Case number one is when b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0. After substituting and simplifying, you may find that the result is greater than 0. So if the discriminant is positive, the equation has two distinct real solutions. Two solutions. For example, if you substitute this, the values of a, b, and c from this equation, the value of a there is 1, and that of b is minus 5, and that of c is positive 6. So let's see what will be the nature of the solutions. So the discriminant therefore is going to be, just substitute the values. B is minus 5, so we have minus 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times 6. So simplifying, this will give us 25, and this will give us 24. So 25 minus 24 is 1. Since 1 is greater than 0, that means the equation has two different real solutions. Case number one is when, after substituting, you find that the result is 0. If the discriminant, this one, is 0, the equation has one repeated equal real solution. In other words, the equation has one solution which repeats itself twice. Okay. For instance, in the equation x squared minus 4x plus 4 equals to 0, a is equal to 1, b is minus 4, while c is positive 4. So substituting into our discriminant, substituting, minus 4 squared is 16. 4 times 1 times 4 is 16 also. So when you subtract the 2, you get 0. So since the discriminant is 0, the equation has one repeated real solution. So if the discriminant is negative, the equation has no real solutions. Why? Because you cannot find the square root of a negative number. For example, this one here, x squared plus 4x plus 8 equals to 0. A is 1, b is 4, and c is minus 6. Substituting into this will give us 16 over here, and this is minus 32. 16 minus 32 will give you minus 16. When you put this under square root, take the square root of minus 16. This will not come out. It will not give you a real solution because there's no square root of negative number. So in other words, the equation does not have solutions. That's the use of the discriminant. It decides the nature of the solutions. I would like you to calculate the discriminant for each equation and state the nature of its solutions, whether the solutions are real, or there are two solutions, two real solutions, or there's one solution which is repeated, or there's no solution at all. So you do that by simply determining the discriminant for each of the equations. Welcome, learners. So in summary, we are saying the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. It helps you to predict the number and type of solutions of a quadratic equation before applying the quadratic formula. So if this gives you a positive result, it means this equation has two distinct real solutions, and if it gives you 0, it means the equation has one repeated real solution. But when it's negative, this means there are no solutions to the equation, because you cannot find the square root of a negative number. This is Black Slides Online, the place where you learn the sciences, namely physics, chemistry, mathematics, biology, and agriculture. Welcome to the last objective, which is now the actual deal now. It is solving quadratic equations accurately using the quadratic formula. It is here where you are going to use the quadratic formula, this one. So the quadratic formula is used to solve any quadratic equation, which is written in the standard form ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, where a is not equal to 0. So the quadratic formula which you have to put to memory, to commit to memory, is this one. X is equal to minus b plus minus root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So steps for solving a quadratic equation are as follows. First and foremost, make sure your equation is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, from which you identify the values of a, b, and c. Then you calculate the value of the discriminant, which is the expression under the root sign, b squared minus 4ac. Then substitute this value which you get into the formula here, bring it here. Then substitute the values into the quadratic formula. Then simplify the expression to obtain the two solutions. That's as easy as that. That's how you solve a quadratic equation using the formula. Welcome, learners. Let's appreciate an example. Suppose we are given this equation here, 2x squared plus 5x minus 3 equals to 0. So the first step is to identify the values. So a is 2, b is 5, while c is minus 3. Secondly, calculate the discriminant. So the discriminant will be obtained when you substitute these values into b squared minus 5ac. So squaring 5 will give us 25. Then multiplying minus 3 by 2 by minus 3 to give us 24. So 25 added 24 is 49. Then you bring those values into the formula. So you have minus 5 plus or minus root of 49 over 2 times 2. So root of 49 is 7. So you bring it down here. And then you simplify. So simplifying will give us something like this. So the plus or minus sign indicates that there are two possible solutions. And because the discriminant is greater than 7, then it means the equation has two real solutions. So it's either x is equal to minus 5 plus 7. You leave the minus sign for now. So we're saying minus 5 plus 7 divided by 4. So minus 5 plus 7 is 2 divided by 4. It's 1 over 2, which is 0.5. Or x is equal to minus 5 minus, this time we are using the minus sign, minus 5 minus 7 over 4. So minus 5 minus 7 is minus 12 over 4. So divide by 4 to give us minus 3. So therefore the solutions to our equation are going to be x equals to half or minus 3. So always ensure the quadratic equation is in the standard form all the time before applying the quadratic formula. In case you have questions, don't hesitate to drop your question as a comment in the comment section, or simply text me. I'll be glad to rectify anything that I didn't make clear in the first place. Welcome, learners. Alright, so I'd like to leave you with work to do. So part A states the quadratic formula. I want you to write the quadratic formula on a paper in your notebook. Identify the values of A, B, and C in each equation. So the first one is ax squared minus 7x plus 2 equals to 0. So tell me what A, B, and C are. 5x squared plus x minus 2 equals to 0. Number 3, calculate the discriminant for each of these equations. There are two equations. We have this one, x squared minus 6 plus 8 equals to 0. B is 2x squared plus 3x minus 5 equals to 0. So for each of these, calculate the discriminant. In section B, you are required to solve using the quadratic formula of the equations. These equations, x squared minus 7x plus 10 equals to 0. Solve 2x squared plus 5x minus 3 equals to 0. Solve 3x squared minus 2x minus 8 equals to 0. But first of all, check the discriminant. Find the discriminant, which will determine whether the equation has two real roots, or two solutions, or just a single solution, or no solution at all. Because that's what the discriminant will help you to do. So welcome, learners. So this has been me, your teacher, Mr. Paul Chilola, representing Black Slides. If you are watching our video lessons outside Malawi, you are welcome. If you're in Kenya, no problem. If you are in Uganda, I've just noted that we have students there too, who are learning on our platform. Welcome, learners. It's a pleasure to have you. Wishing you a beautiful night, expecting to see you again later in the morning tomorrow. Bye.